I'm going to go ahead and start cutting this off. Before I decided to start cutting this, I went on LMC Trucks Classic Industries. I looked around and you can't buy one of these that I can find. So guess I'm not. Let the smoke clear for a minute. Okay, so I've got it all cut out. I've taken the old heater core out and got the new one to go in. It'll slide in nicely, just, well, maybe not that nicely, there we go. And I've cut a hole in the side here because I'm going to bring a bolt through, like an L-shaped bolt that's going to stick out here so I can put a nut on and tighten this cover down. There's a couple of things I gotta do. I don't like these brackets that I gotta put together, how to try to hold in place while I tighten up the screws. So I'm gonna weld some short screws on the end so the screws stick out, and I'll make them stainless so they can pop through easy and I don't have to hold everything together with 3 hands. Also, got the cover that I've put a rubber seal on the back of all the way around, and I'll show you. It's a garage door seal that I use, that I cut up, and a little metal bracket to just grab it. So this guy will come down in here and snap in place, and then I'll close it up and put a bolt right there to bolt it in. So when you want to take it off, you just pull this off and you can get to the heater core. So I might put a filter in here, like an air filter. So I'll come over to the bench and we'll take a look at how to make the bracket. From this rubber garage door gasket, it's got a profile like an eye. There's only $7 for this roll. I don't be able to use this rubber for lots of other stuff, but I trimmed it and made it fit. I made a couple little flaps so the tubing can stick through and it would seal it. Not exactly high tech, but it's going to do a good job. And then I made a little bracket on the back of it that this is going to snap in the old part and kind of clamp in there. And I'll drill a hole right through here and make a bolt so I can bolt it down. And this bolt we made out of, well, it's going to be, I made it out of the carriage bolt, 5.5 inch, 1/4 carriage bolt. And I'll put a butterfly nut on the end. And actually, so you don't waste time watching me bend it, I made it already. There it is. And I'll drill a hole in the side of the heater box, big enough. You put the nuts and the washers on first, because otherwise you can't get them on again. And I'll put the hole in the side of the box big enough so that these 2 nuts and this washer can get through. And I'll stick it through, and I made a little bracket, little clip that I'll pop in like that. Fingers are cold now. I'll pop in like that, and then I'll be able to tighten it up without any trouble. The only hard part is I got to get that hole where I want it, but I don't have to be perfect because this thing will move, and then I'll tighten it once I get it where I want it. I made this bracket just out of a piece of aluminum angle. It's not exactly high tech. I banged on it a few times to make it fit. We're good to go. Another thing I'm not crazy about are these brackets. You have to stick them in there and kind of hold them together and get them straight so the bolts will line up, and then get the screws in. It's a big pain. So I'm going to run some stainless steel 832 bolts through it, just so I can stick it on and line it up and not have to have 3 hands to put it together. And what I'm going to do is, I was going to braze them in, but the holes are just right so I could tap this with an 832 tap and run them through, and then it'll be like double nutted when I put it on, so that won't be an issue. And I'll do these things. So I'll stop the video and do all those and get it set so you don't have to watch me do that. Because actually, half of my time is not spent doing this. It's spent trying to open these stupid little packages and not stab myself in the eye. So on the heater core, this is a Spectre Performance. The part number is 94559. It's all aluminum, shouldn't be any issues. And like all the other parts that I show on here, I mean, I don't get paid to endorse them, but I'll put them on there in a year from now or whenever, 100 years from now. If they're bad, I'll update the video and tell you what happened. As long as the video is not updated, then nothing went wrong. And so I got all my parts put together and ready to go. I've got my bracket. I guess I'll go ahead and put that in next. Put in my gizmo thingy. I don't know what to call it. I think gizmo thingies kind of makes sense. Slip my clip in there and then snug it down. I'm not going to get it tight yet because I'm going to have to move it, I'm guessing. So just a nice snug fit. And then I want to mark a hole to drill in here. So I'll just take a little paint, put it on my finger and rub it on there. Something not black. The silver should do just fine. Give that a shot. Hold it straight. I won't hit it exact, but I made a little mark. I'll drill that and we'll see that that works. I got my hole cut, although I should have mentioned it's a slot, not a hole, because I have to kind of snap it in and I need a little bit of leeway. And for my core, you can see if this is okay. I added 832 stainless screws and tapped them through there so they'll tighten up easy from the outside and loosen without spinning. Stick this guy in here. It's also important that the way the hoses go, this little guy, they're 2 different sizes, goes on the bottom, the big one goes on the top. What's more important, this is so air can be released, but heater cores fill from the bottom up, so the heat transfers up and then all the air gets released. If you try to pump the other way, you can entrap air. I've actually seen different opinions on different websites, whether that big one or small one goes on the bottom or the top, but the important part is it's fed from the water pump to the bottom of the heater core. Get in the hole. There you go. I'll just start these guys in the back and then shove the ones in the front in. Or that I'll fall in accidentally. That'll work too. And I'm not gonna tighten them down right away. I'll put the cover on and then snug them down. So this guy will slide on here, sort of nicely. Get my bolt line up, bang that in there. And I'm going to use the required, this is a hillbilly truck, so you need a big fat washer. But it's a classy hillbilly truck, so it's stainless. Snug that down. I'll come back here and tighten up my nuts. Definitely need my nuts tightened. Don't know where my hand nut tightener is. Usually in my pocket where nut tighteners belong. I'm gonna have to trim this right here to get around that screw, so I'll stop and I'll do that. And then we'll wrap it up and tighten everything up. Alright, so we're all prettied up, everything's wrapped up. So if we ever had to change this again, you got your two nuts here, two down on the bottom. Disconnect your hoses and take off your butterfly nut. And this is done pretty quickly. Probably take 10-15 minutes top to change this in the future, even with the wheel well on. The wheel well comes down about here, and you have plenty of room to get to these bottom bolts. So only thing left to do, crack open another one of these and move on. Now I could, well actually, next thing you do would be to start it and make sure it doesn't leak. However, you can see it blocked off the fuel pump, and I haven't put on the electric fuel pump yet, so two reasons. I can't test it because I don't have the fuel pump hooked up, and second, there's no way in hell I'm gonna put this video on and show it leaks anyway, so if it does, I'm gonna fix it and you'll never know. Thanks.